recording this to the cloud. This is week 7 of R678 on emerging learning technologies in the spring of 2024. This is the first time that I can recall this particular class included a week on precision education, which represents the special issue that you're reading for this week. In some of the articles for precision education, they actually talk about social annotations, adding them to ebooks or deleting them, and how the correlation between the use of ebooks and social indexing and annotation and performance. So that kind of caught my attention. It wasn't intentional for this week. We have Christie with us here, and I'm going to mispronounce it. DeCarolis. Help me, Christie.
It's DeCarolis.
DeCarolis. So Christie is coming to us from southern New Jersey near Philadelphia, and she works with an organization called Hypothesis, which those of you in graduate school pose many hypotheses. So we'll have her explain what Hypothesis is, how long it's existed, what kinds of examples she has to share with us so we can understand how Hypothesis is used. I hear people talking about it a lot, especially at conferences like the ones I was at this fall, the Online Learning Consortium conference in particular. They had a booth there and I had a little demo at the conference. I think they're probably emerging during the past couple of years, and the user base has exploded, I would guess. And so maybe Christie can tell us more about that, but I'm hearing about it a lot, and I saw the number of people at their booth in October in Washington, D.C., so it's gotten a lot of attention. Maybe she can also help us differentiate Hypothesis from other competing tools that exist out there. I know there's another one I saw at the conference called Yellow Dig, and I'm thinking it might be a similar tool, but it may not be. So it's nice in this course every once in a while, not just to read theory and to read research, but to hear from people who are actually in the trenches with an actual product that people are actually using that we can hear about. So it's not hypothesized, even though it's hypothesis. It's not fiction. This is reality. People are using this tool to help them process information and become metacognively aware of online discourse and to improve their overall learning. And so in this day of increasing online and blended classes, the use of annotation tools to foster interaction, to foster reflection, to foster a chance for students to take ownership over different points and knowledge bits is extremely, extremely important. And as you can see, Christie's working for an organization that is growing. Students don't want to be left alone online. They want to interact. They want to collaborate. They want to understand if they know do they really know the content well enough to explain it, to use it, to share it, and so forth. Tools like Hypothesis and Yellow Dig and other technology tools that have come out in the past few years help us to move beyond passive learning, to get more a learner-centered understanding of the content, to help us situate ourselves within a community of learners, all helping one another understand the key points. And the annotations that are made are ways to extend one's knowledge, are ways to demonstrate one's knowledge, or ways to represent one's knowledge and share one's knowledge. And so it becomes a powerful tool for learning in the 21st century. These tools for representing our knowledge with concept maps, through annotating our knowledge with tools like this one that we'll hear about today, for reflecting on knowledge, and so forth, help us extend what we've learned, connect what we've learned with other prior knowledges that we've had, and to see where our difficulties lie, to see where we're having problems and need the misconceptions might need to be addressed and ameliorated through additional instruction, potentially. So I've talked a bit about why I think this is important, Christie. I think it's good at this point in time. We've got um, 12 people with us, great. It's important. And by the way, my students, Christy, have the option of coming to synchronous or watching the video. And so these is being recorded for the ones that maybe are working tonight or have kids and so forth. So we have a blend here. Christy, you want to tell us a bit about the field that Hypothesis is situated in, if you can? Why Hypothesis was built and or the purpose and what it's done. What have you seen in terms of growth, in terms of new features within Hypothesis or predicted new features? All those things, and my students will ask questions too. And maybe we can go for, till about 7 o'clock or so, if that's okay with you, or however long you would like to be with us. So it's a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for coming in this evening. I know it's outside, it's after work hours, so thank you for taking time out to be with us. Why don't you introduce yourself and then talk about some of the things that I've mentioned already?
Sure. So hi everyone. Thanks so much for joining tonight and thanks for having me. As Dr. Bonk mentioned, my name is Christy and my role here at Hypothesis is technically a customer success manager, but my background is in instructional design and education. I started out as a high school history teacher. I taught high school history for 5 years. I got a master's in instructional design, and then I moved and worked in higher ed in instructional design for 8 years. So I worked at Rutgers as an instructional designer. And I was actually the first person to use Hypothesis at Rutgers when we started using it there. And now I moved and basically managed the training for faculty here at Hypothesis. Um, and I adjunct still for Rutgers. So I actually still use the tool as an instructor in addition to supporting faculty using the tool across the country. Hypothesis started as a social annotation tool, I think in 2011, that was just available on the web. So the founder wanted people to be more easily able to uh, react and respond to articles in a more productive way than he saw happening in like comment sections on, like a CNN news article or something. So he wanted people to be able to directly annotate specific pieces of the text rather than just having an overall response to the text. So it started out as a free web tool. It's still available as a free web tool that you can add as a browser extension if you want to annotate things. So when I was in grad school, I actually just used it on a personal basis to annotate articles and annotate e-texts. But they launched an LMS app, which is integrated into major learning management systems like Canvas, D12 Brightspace, Blackboard, Moodle. We have a couple others that are not quite as big, but the LMS integration makes it a lot easier for instructors to use Hypothesis with their students because a lot of that technical barriers to entry are taken away with the LMS integration. So that's kind of how we got started. I can show you, I think it might make a little bit more sense what I'm talking about if I do a quick demo.
Don't just show us yet, because Alicia's already got a question for you. Alicia.
Okay, I didn't see, I'm sorry.
It's very nice to have you here, Christy.
Sure.
And I think that I know that Hypothesis is very powerful collaborate platform, and especially for users, they can work together and maybe they can exchange their comments, insights, and also it fosters a very rich collaborate environment. It's very nice. It's meaningful and to me and powerful. And I'm just quite interested in your insights on if there's some people, especially users, they have less skills in digital annotation skills. Is there any recommendations you for these users and who can use this powerful tool and ensuring the benefits are universally accessible across diverse users? Do you have some suggestions? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have about we're working with about 300 schools now, and they're primarily higher education institutions for the most part, although we do work with some K-12 schools. And most teachers have found it beneficial to use Hypothesis for the things that you have mentioned. So it tends to be a great way to foster engagement with students and collaboration with students in a more authentic way than maybe a traditional discussion board does. So because students can connect their thoughts and their questions to specific pieces of text as they read and anchor their thoughts and their questions to those specific pieces of text, the conversation tends to be a little bit more broad. So I saw that in my own course. The first semester I used Hypothesis in my own course that I teach was fall 2019. So that was, I didn't work here yet. It was a few years back, and I used Hypothesis in my course, and I also used traditional discussion boards. So we kind of would go back and forth. At the end of the semester, my students, we did the traditional course evaluations, and my students just gave me a lot of feedback that they thought they learned more from the Hypothesis readings than doing the traditional discussion boards, because seeing their classmates' perspectives as they read the text and seeing other people ask questions as they completed the reading helped them better understand the text, and also contributed to a greater sense of self-confidence and self-efficacy. The other benefit of Hypothesis is that in the annotations, you can add different types of multimedia. So you can embed YouTube videos, you can embed images in the annotations, and that can help reach a broader community of learners as well. So you mentioned, like, how do we incorporate multiple types of learners? Bringing in that multimodality is really important with universal design for learning. So we can, if there's something like in a physics textbook, I have an example where, they try to explain what the definition of the law of conservation of momentum is in text. Text is not necessarily the best way to represent that definition. So with Hypothesis, you can add an annotation with a video demonstrating what that looks like, and the student could watch the video right on the same screen as they're reading the text. So the multimodality, I think, can also really benefit different learners as well. I hope, did I answer your question?
I appreciate your insights. I like the word multimodality because it's really popular now.
Yeah, definitely.
Christy, do you happen to know my former advisee, Sharon Storger, who's at Rutgers in the library? She's a multimedia person.
Yeah, she probably does not know me because she is more important.
She's moved up. She's really moved
she
up the food chain, hasn't she?
Yeah. But I definitely know who she is and have come across her before.
Okay, just curious. There's another person, I'm blinking on his name, who's brought me to Rutgers virtually to do talks a couple times. We've done some sessions there. He's from Turkey originally, but I'll think of it before you end tonight. So anyone else with a question before she goes to show us some examples?
Christy, I'm actually just glad that you're talking a little bit on this. We're using a very similar platform in one of my other courses right now.
In Dr. Hickey's class?
No, this is the AI in education class with Megan Humberg.
Yeah. So what's the tool?
It's called Perusal.
Yeah, that's what Dr. Hickey used, and Megan's one of his former students. So yeah, Perusal.
Well, we were never really provided with like any type of instruction on like, this is how I want you to use this, or this is how some people use this. And so everybody that's been in there has just been using it literally in place of the discussion forums.
Yeah.
And it's been very traditional, I think, because of that. And so this is nice, actually, hearing some of these other intentions behind the tool itself. I like that.
Right. And Perusal's not been adopted by IU, and that there's some renegade instructors who are using it anyways. I think a Hypothesis has been adopted, but I'm not sure. Christy would have to let it. I think it's an IU designated tool. So yeah, Christy, you want to comment on what Bo said there?
Yeah. So you're correct in that IU has adopted Hypothesis officially. The way that Hypothesis and Perusal work are a little bit different as far as how they're integrated into learning management systems. So they're both social annotation tools. Hypothesis integrates into Canvas a little bit more deeply than Perusal. So on the instructor end, instructors can still build their assignments in Canvas. They can use SpeedGrader to grade their assignments. They can use Canvas groups to split students up into groups and to annotate. And students don't have to leave Canvas to annotate. Whereas Perusal really kind of directs everybody into their own third-party platform, and teachers have to grade in Perusal and set up their assignments there and kind of funnel everybody into there. So when I was an instructional designer at Rutgers, I was always trying to find the simplest thing for faculty to integrate as far as, you know, technical prowess was concerned, because a lot of setup was often a barrier to entry for instructors. So I really liked Hypothesis for its ease of use. But otherwise, Hypothesis and Perusal are very similar. I would say the other large difference outside of the LMS integration is that Perusal has AI grading capabilities, whereas right now, Hypothesis does not have AI grading capabilities for the instructor. And the way we handle content is a little bit different as well. So instructors would have to like import their content into Perusal, or students have to purchase content through Perusal's platform. Whereas with Hypothesis, we don't actually host any content. So copyright can get, you know, copyright concerns can be handled differently on each platform, but that's kind of getting into the weeds a little bit.
I would like chime in on that as well. Just the fact that you have to go out to a third-party site outside of Canvas. I know we're talking about, you know, first world problems here, but that's definitely one of them, if we're gonna highlight, you know, those issues right now. So yeah.
Yeah, and it gets into like privacy and data collection as well. Like that's again kind of more getting into like philosophical weediness, but Hypothesis, we don't collect any student data beyond names that are pulled from Canvas. We don't have any email addresses from students or anything like that. So, you know, that at Perusal, you have to create accounts, so they have to do those things. So we try to handle privacy a little bit differently too. But
okay, so let's take it show us some examples or where you were headed, wherever you were headed.
Yeah, sure. So I have some examples set up in Canvas here. These just happen to be STEM related examples, but they are not limited to STEM. So if I open a reading that I've loaded into Canvas, this example happens to be a PDF chapter from an open educational textbook, although you can use Hypothesis with different types of documents. So in this particular case, this is a file that I've loaded into my Canvas course, and I can grab that file to add the Hypothesis sidebar on the right-hand side. So this right-hand sidebar is essentially what the functionality that Hypothesis is adding to the document. And you'll see that there are highlighted pieces of the document, and all of the highlights represent areas of the text that either I as the instructor or students have selected. And if I hover over each annotation, you can see the annotations are connected to those areas of the text. So you can see it's changing green. So I know that Jennifer is asking a question about that specific line. Then you'll also notice some of the annotations have this capability of showing replies. So that's where the threaded discussion component comes in, where students can select a very specific area of text and have a conversation on here. So as an instructor now, I could take this information and see like, okay, Jennifer's kind of writing out the syntax to this equation. Malika has a question about it. Do I want to answer this now? I could answer this here in the annotations. I could wait and see if another student has a response to it, or I might take it back to the, the live class meeting and address it in class. So gives me a little bit more information as the instructor as well to make decisions about my teaching. And then later on, I have an example with, as I was mentioning before, the law of conservation of momentum, where this definition in the text is pretty poorly defined. So, students or I as the instructor can embed videos in the annotations and add multimedia so that students can better understand the concepts as they're reading instead of having to navigate to, different web pages to view different things. So we have the ability to add context here in the annotation space as well. And the annotations can be, that's the other thing that I tend to hear about Perusall sometimes, is that it can be a little bit cluttered and distracting. We try to keep things a little more streamlined and simple. So you can turn off the annotations as you read if you want, and kind of tuck the hypothesis bar away if you want to just read without the annotations, and toggle them back on when you're ready. So try to keep the main focus on the reading. Annotating is just simple as selecting the text and clicking the annotate button. And then
I was going to ask how do you do it? So
yeah.
Thank you. I was just going to ask that. So repeat that. So for everyone.
Yeah, so I can annotate by just selecting the text that I want to annotate in the document. And then I can click the annotate button. And I have the option to add the text here. I can post it to the class, or I can make a private annotation only to myself. And that would be only visible to me, not even to my instructor if I was a student here. So it is possible for students to kind of self-study. And one of my students actually just wrote, my students had a project that was due this week, and they have to hand in a reflection with the project. And my student was like, I wish I annotated more to myself, because I went back to the annotations when I was doing the project and I didn't have enough notes, and I wish I had more. So I thought that was interesting too.
So when it goes into a database, the database is a community database then that everyone can pull from and add their annotations to. What if you, in that database, have a whole bunch of self annotations? Only you will be able to pull that document. Is it indexed for you specifically as a private document that those self-reflections don't get seen by other people? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so if I have any annotations here that have, I don't know if I have any private ones here. I might have deleted them all. I will make one private. Any annotations that have a little lock icon are only visible to me as a user. So yeah, hypothesis is not showing every annotation to every person in this class, only the ones that are publicly posted to the class. And it's restricted to just the group that is in this this Canvas course. So they're not kind of publicly available either. That is another kind of difference between using the browser extension, where you can make public annotations, so literally anyone using the browser extension could see it. This is restricted to just the class to be FERPA compliant, essentially. But did I answer your question?
Yeah. Oh yeah, thanks.
You've mentioned a couple of times, Christy, about the difference between the extension, and is there an application as well that you download, or what? What's the other option?
Yeah, so the two options are the browser extension and the LMS app, which the browser extension I do have. I think I just hit it because my bar gets a little bit messy. But yeah, the browser extension, essentially all it does is do the same thing. It just adds it over any website that you want to read. And the LMS app is just when a faculty member wants to build an assignment in Canvas, they can actually select that their assignment is attached to Hypothesis and attach their reading through their Canvas assignment. So that is kind of where the apps are different. The LMS app, if you're using it in Canvas or one of the other learning management systems, you don't need the browser extension at all. It's not necessary, or an account with the browser extension. Does that help clarify what you were asking with the difference?
Yeah, that was perfect actually, because I'm already installed the browser extension and I was playing around with it and I just wanted to see what the other option was. That's perfect.
Yeah, and it's and that sometimes people get a little bit confused. The browser extension is completely separate. So like I have an account on the browser extension where I annotate. It's not connected to my LMS account at all, because of like the FERPA compliance and trying to keep privacy. There's, you know, pros and cons to that because sometimes students want to be able to access things that they've done in Canvas, you know, outside of that and use it later in life, which is something we want to explore later on. But as of right now, the browser extension is completely separate from, oh, here we go. Completely separate from the LMS app. Oh goodness. Trying to pull up the browser extension. I only, my actual day job is only usually supporting the LMS app. So I'm like, browser extension, I'm never like even really usually going into this. But you can see, like I just pulled up our website and this random person annotated. I don't know where these annotations are from, but they're trying to figure out what annotating is. And this is without me even being signed into the browser extension. So yeah, any other questions? Or nobody annotated this, I guess. About kind of what's possible in the annotation space.
Can teams work together? Do you have a function for a team?
Yeah, so the Canvas integration, the LMS app works with groups in Canvas. So if an instructor were to split students up into groups in Canvas, then when I would open the assignment on the instructor end, let me go to modules. It creates a separate annotation space for each group, very similar to how discussion board spaces are created in Canvas. So the top of the annotation sidebar actually changes into a drop-down menu where I can go into another annotation space for my second group or team. So this first group sees these annotations. The second group has no annotations, and the third group, I think I have the same one as the first. So I can toggle between the teams as an instructor. The students would only have access to the annotations within their group. So they could work in groups of, you know, however small or large you wanted them.
So are these files saved and can they be shared, or they only exist on a database somewhere? I mean, they're not resident on one's laptop, right? They're on a database that's accessed.
They are not resident on your laptop, but we also don't store them. So that was kind of where I was saying like, oh, I'm getting into the copyright weeds with Hypothesis versus Perusal. So Perusal, like our, you know, competitor, you have to load content into Perusal to annotate it. We only add a sidebar over a file that lives somewhere else. So in most instances, when faculty are using Hypothesis within a Canvas course site, they are annotating over a file that is living in Canvas. So this is just a file in my Canvas course. We have other options where you can grab files from your Google Drive or OneDrive, and it's just being stored there. And the sidebar is being just overlaid on top of the document. So we don't store any documents at Hypothesis.
Other questions from the people who are here tonight? Anyone else want to jump in? People are quiet. Can you tell us what tools have been added or features recently? And what ones people are working on, given that the tool has kind of exploded in use, there must be lots of requests for additional features.
Yeah, so one of the features that I guess where we try to expand the most are different documents that you can annotate. So if I go to set up an assignment, like acting as if I'm an instructor, just to show you where I can grab documents, because like I said, we don't host any documents. You have to kind of grab them from a source. So if I go act like I'm adding an external tool to this course and choose hypothesis, it'll show me, oh, here's the types of things you can annotate. So I could paste a URL of a website and have my students annotate a public facing website. I could paste a YouTube video. That is something that we just released in August. You can annotate YouTube video transcripts as you watch them. JSTOR articles are a recent feature as well. So if there's an article from the library you want students to annotate, instead of downloading it and putting it in your Canvas site, you can direct them right to JSTOR. Canvas files, like I said, that's kind of the most common. Google Drive or OneDrive. Canvas pages we also just released within the past couple of months. So if faculty develop content within Canvas that they want students to annotate, they can have them annotate a Canvas page. So I do that in my class with my students to have them annotate project instructions. Usually I'll put them in a page and then they can just annotate what I've added to the Canvas page. So mostly our features are around what kinds of content can we add here where people can annotate. A lot of folks want the ability to annotate images. So that is something that's on our roadmap. Different video sources is a big one with universities right now. So right now they can annotate YouTube transcripts, but we get a lot of requests for Kaltura and Panopto, or big streaming services at universities. And notifications are also something that we get a lot of requests about that are being worked on. So that's kind of our current priorities. A lot of our more recent updates have also been around just making sure we have the same features aligned in all of our learning management systems that we work in, and that they work very similarly in those. So Canvas tends to be the one that has like the most up-to-date features because most universities are using Canvas. But then we try to make sure, Blackboard, Brightspace, and the other learning management systems have similar features offered.
So tell me more about URL in particular, or JSTOR, or YouTube, those three. Are you, in fact, putting markings on the resource that it will go to the world to see, or is only you're mirroring, you're copying my homepage, let's say, or my syllabus for this class, and students are going to annotate my syllabus for this class that's online? Is that only resident? Is it a copy, like taking a copy, taking it into a copier and then just marking that up? Or is it the actual website itself is being marked up?
So kind of neither. This example is a website.
Kind of neither.
Yeah, I wish I knew the technical details in this a little bit more. So these annotations are not public on the website. They're only available in our class. But it's also not a copy of the website or a cached version. It is the live website. So if the person who owns this website went in and deleted this whole paragraph, it would disappear from this, from this view as well. So I think it has something to do with like some kind of proxy server or something. That is technical details kind of beyond what I usually answer, but we don't cache or copy websites. They are live versions. And if a student did annotate something that was then deleted, a new kind of category is created at the top here that says orphaned. So we have like orphaned annotations that are attached to text that like kind of no longer exists on the site.
There is a tool called ThingLink, which I think I'll have my former student Merve Bastgun show us, that where she can, in her CV or resume, she can embed in video links that, you know, that kind of adding hyperlinks, multimedia hyperlinks to a document that's online, using the ThingLink coding. Is this similar to that? Have you heard of ThingLink?
I have used ThingLink before, yeah. So I would say for ThingLink, a person is creating a ThingLink for someone else to view or consume. Whereas I would say Hypothesis is more for a group to collaboratively examine a resource. So some of the capabilities are similar, but I think the end goal is a little bit different. Like I used to support faculty using ThingLink, but they would often be having their students create ThingLinks, or they would create like a syllabus as a ThingLink and give that to their students. Whereas in my class, I have my students all annotate the syllabus. They're all adding comments to it instead of me just making a ThingLink of the syllabus and giving it to them.
Yeah,
Does
so
that help?
ThingLink is like a show and tell, and
Yeah.
and Hypothesis is a reflection, collaborative reflection on content.
Yes. Yes.
So Jennifer had a question. Jennifer, I know it's been answered, but still you should ask it.
Sorry. Close the chat.
I think it's been answered. Yeah, I just was curious about what happened to the student annotations if the website was altered, but you answered it. Thank you.
Yeah, we get the orphaned annotation. So people always sometimes not always, but instructors will sometimes panic because they think, you know, the annotations have been deleted, but that is never the case. The way it works on the back end is that each document or whatever's being annotated in the course has a specific ID. And the course itself has an ID. And when we see those two things together, we display annotations. So I could even delete this assignment from the course. And if I were to re-add it, those things would reappear. So it is difficult for me to really scrub this from this particular course. But if I did add it to the same thing to a different course that I'm teaching in a new semester, it wouldn't have annotations.
Mm-hmm. So the first time that I sort of saw this sort of social annotation thing was in a syllabus that I requested from an IU professor, and it was an annotated syllabus from a previous semester. It was really interesting in a Google Doc. And so would you say that the advantage of something like Hypothesis is that integration and being able to overlay all the different types of meaning? Like I'm trying to figure out like sort of the levels of what's available.
Yeah. Some people will ask us like, what's the difference between people just commenting on the Google Docs? So I think just the way it integrates into Canvas is a little bit different because usually people are using Google Docs to collaborate on the document itself, like edit the document together. So the way the integration works is a little different there. And also the editing options for the text in the comment is more robust than adding a comment to a Google Doc. So you can add the multimedia, you can make, there's this useless LaTeX example here, but you can add equations to the comments if you wanted to. You can edit the comments so that they do have formatting or external links and things like that, where that's a little bit more limited in commenting in Google Docs.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can take off the share at this point, so we can see everyone in here. There was another question from Jill, I think. Jill?
I think my question is similar to the one of Jennifer because I'm a collaboration person and has bring a lot of co-creation project and collaborative project into classrooms. So at the first glance, I'm wondering about the similarities or difference between the hypotheses and the Google co-editing series tools. Yeah, so I would like to confirm if the hypothesis is using videos or other multi-model material as comments or say the annotations instead of making annotations on the videos, right? Can we
You
make
can,
annotation and or on the videos?
yeah, that's a good question. So it is a little confusing. You can add videos to annotations, but you can, yes, you can also annotate just YouTube videos right now.
So I can highlight some parts of videos and make annotations or comments on the videos, right? Am I right?
So with our tool particularly, right now you would be annotating the transcript as you watch the video. So you're not annotating the video itself. It's the transcript as you watch the video. I think Perusal allows you to annotate the actual video itself, which I think we're exploring that for the future because obviously not all videos have transcripts, right? So if you're showing like a video of a dance performance, there's no transcript there. But we
basically it is still the text based, right?
It's very text-based, mostly at this point because we're trying to keep things as accessible as possible and trying to ensure that the annotations are still accessible for users who may be using a screen reader or something like that. Becomes more difficult when you remove the text element and you annotate in like an arbitrary part of an image or a video. So that's kind of where we've had a little bit of roadblocks in development. Because accessibility is another really important thing to us to make sure that we maintain moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you for your explanation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm quite interested in Christie's talk, and just now you show us your real teaching, especially how can you use this hypothesis annotation activities in your class. So my question is, did you do some comparative study of control group and experimental group students that use these annotation skills? And without using it, what's the difference? How can you evaluate or assess the impact of this hypothesis annotation activities on students' learning outcomes? Thank you.
I'll reframe that question a little bit.
Yeah.
If have you done the research, or do you know of people who have done research and who should
other scholars.
Other scholars, what should they be reading? Is there a specific article that you can pop up and put the link in the chat window or anything like that?
So I think we do. I have not done research personally on it. I've always just kind of done more casual student evaluation and changing things based on observation and feedback. We have a case study with the Ohio State University. I'll put the link in the chat. The actual published paper I don't think is out yet, but the professor that is on this site that I just put in the chat, Nicholas Denton, he is publishing about this. He specifically studied using hypothesis social annotation in his undergraduate pharmacy courses and looking at student comprehension and also student retention in STEM subjects. So he found that using hypothesis enabled students to comprehend the pharmacy courses at the graduate level, and also that he found that their responses on the persistence in the sciences survey, which is to predict, whether students will continue their studies in STEM, increased when they were using a hypothesis versus when he did not use hypothesis. So students were more likely to continue studying STEM, and that included first-generation students and underrepresented students, in addition to feeling more confident in how they were performing in the subject as well. So student self-efficacy increased too. And then there was this other research article that I wanted to bring up. I just had to find the link to it. This one is a little bit older, but it connected social annotation and anchored annotation with self-efficacy as well. So there's been a couple of studies done showing a link between having students collaboratively annotate and increased self-efficacy. So that is the study that I'm posting in the chat, as well as I'll put one more in about just students' own opinions about using social annotation. So hopefully that is something to get started.
Could I just ask you, you know, I installed the extension here and stuff. I haven't seen anything about like funding. Like there's no advertisements, there's no at least on your site, I haven't seen anything really about sales or pricing plans or anything like that. Does that just occur when the colleges or universities sign on with you, or is it mainly a free model?
Yeah, just when colleges sign on. So if colleges subscribe to Hypothesis, then they usually, you know, pay for it out of their budgets, make it available at the system level. The browser extension is free. That was largely funded through grants and investment funding at the very beginning, but largely now we're funded through subscriptions with universities. And IU is actually kind of unique. The campus, I think the way Hypothesis works at IU is that it's integrated with the eText platform, so students pay for using it in their courses, whereas the majority, I would say like 95% of the institutions have a reverse model where the institutions are paying and it's just available to students in their courses.
That's interesting, yeah.
So IU is making students pay. Go figure. We have a lot of fees for technology here. We have a very powerful technology department. So yeah, there's a lot of fees. A lot of tools here on this campus. A lot of tech support. So how long has IU been a user or subscriber? Do you know?
You know, I don't know. I know that it's been a while, and actually, that was really silly of me that I didn't mention. The one case study we have been doing with IU. I'll put that in the chat as well. This is eventually going to be published too. I don't think it is. I think they're still collecting data or working on it. But IU largely launched using Hypothesis in first-year writing seminars and tried to increase student engagement and writing skills with using Hypothesis. So Professor Justin Hodgson is one of our largest users of Hypothesis at IU.
Yeah, 80,000 student annotations over 3 semesters. That's a lot. 4 million words, almost 5 million. That's a lot.
Yeah, I would say I have in my class about 25 students, and we usually hit 3,000 annotations each semester. Wow. So you get a pretty good engagement. I mean, depending on how many documents you added to and things as well, but it's always promising to me.
Almost 200 courses using it, you know, 3,600 students using it. That's a lot, you know. It's interesting data anyhow. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I apologize for that slipping my mind in the beginning. That's clearly very relevant to you all.
Yeah, we should have had that up there first. It's good that, you know, they're doing research on it. So yeah. Any other final questions for Christie for tonight? I don't want to keep her too long. Yeah, Bo.
Sorry, I've got lots of them. Does it make a difference if you're utilizing like the Chrome browser versus Safari or another, you know, third-party browser as well, or not?
It doesn't. I tend to recommend Chrome or Firefox just as like general practice because sometimes like the LMS itself might be a little bit funky. But it should work in any browser.
Hmm.
And it does work. The LMS app at least works on like mobile devices as well. It's just a little, the user experience isn't super great because it's annotating and reading all at once. I don't know. People do it. I don't know how they do it.
What else you got, Bo?
Oh, that might be it. Well, okay, I do have one. Sorry, I'm actually like testing it right now in the background as we're going along. I've noticed that on certain documents or certain instances, I'll highlight something as though I'm intending to annotate it, but the little quotation marks don't pop up for me.
That's an interesting one.
I'm gonna stump you here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I know sometimes if you're annotating things that cross over 2 pages, like cross over the page break, sometimes it can get a little bit cranky about things. But yeah, the little annotate should show up if you're able to select text. So you're able to select the text and it's just not popping up.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I've got a feeling I think I know what it is. The PDF I was trying to do it on was stored on my computer, not on the web. Would that?
Okay. That might be it, but you should even be able to just open a file in your browser if you're using the browser extension and annotate that as well. So I don't know if that would be the answer.
Huh,
That's not
okay.
possible when you're using the LMS app. You have to load it somewhere. But for local files for private annotating, you should be able to. Although I might be wrong about that. Like I said, I don't normally support the browser extension as much.
Here, I just did it on the syllabus for class here. And so like when I come down here to highlight, there's no little guys that pop up. I think I can still do it though.
Yeah, I think it might be because it looks like this is like a pop-up window from within Canvas. I think that's probably why. Like if you actually downloaded the document, then you might be able to do it. But I think it's because it's like within the pop-up window in Canvas. Although let's see if I'm lying. I don't know. You'll have to have the annotation window open for it to show.
Oh. Let's see here. I think I broke it.
I don't think it's broken, but I'm not sure. Let me see if I can test it on my end. Oh, yeah. So I'm probably just not understanding the steps for the browser extension. I just pasted instructions. It gives instructions on how to use a local file with Hypothesis. Chrome has to change something to browser default settings in order to make local files annotatable by Hypothesis, it looks like.
So Christie, you indicated that it only works for video with YouTube, which is typical of other systems and platforms and tools out there. There's some little one you can clip videos. It'll only do in YouTube. I think Minnesota created something called Video Ant for annotation, and Teachers College Columbia has created like a video tool as well, but it's only for YouTube videos. You can't do it for other platforms or whatever. So just a side note. That's kind of interesting. It's a large platform with YouTube, of course. They've got, billion, zillion videos to choose from. But, it's kind of also interesting that people are migrating just to YouTube videos for their, performance indicators and so forth. Any final
Yeah, I think at least that probably has something to do with like their API and the ability to embed YouTube videos outside of the website. So hopefully we'll have other options soon.
Yeah, one thing is called Tube Chop, which let you chop YouTube videos up, but no other platforms. There's a tool from Teachers College, can't remember the name now, that let you annotate YouTube videos as well. That was pretty nifty, but I think that one no longer exists. These things come and go, Again, how long has Hypothesis existed?
Since 2011.
That long. So it's 13 years. So that's longevity in this field. Bo's posted the Tube Chop. That's a different Tube Chop than the one I use. And here it says no longer in business. Tube Chop is no longer in business. Now so there we go.
Oh, geez. I just saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's changed to a matchmaking site now, but it might. So Jill's quickly going to check it out. But so again, Christy, this has been fabulous. I think this is a really important area to explore, the area of technology augmented learning and thinking. We're getting into intelligence augmentation with concept maps tools, timeline tools, social annotation tools, and other video animation tools and so forth. These tools are becoming more powerful over time, and you've got a model, your subscription model from a university, so that the individual user can just come on the site and use the free version, right, as they will. If they're in a university that hasn't subscribed, let's say they're working for Indiana State, they don't have a license, then they can come in and use it as an individual. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually some instructors use the free web app with their classes.
Yeah.
It's just not FERPA compliant, so they probably shouldn't.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so
Yeah.
FERPA rule is a legal issue on exposure of data and people's information and privacy and all that kind. I hadn't thought about that. You're right about that. That limits it a bit. And that's why you want to do a university licenses who then have to comply within the university structure. And I just took one of those university tests today or yesterday to comply myself. So we should thank Christy for coming in. A big round of applause for Christy. And
thanks so much for having me. And I'll put my email in if anyone has questions. Feel free to reach out. Happy to help. Yes,
please leave that in there. Again, I thank you. I'm going to stop the recording and take a little short break here. Thanks again for week 7, part 1, R678, spring of 2024. Welcome, Christy from Hypothesis. And goodbye, Christy from Hypothesis.